Okay, it's live now. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome to the 16th episode of Simply Sada. This week, we'll be discussing work from home, which is like the new part of our life. And with the second wave of coronavirus, it has now becoming an integral part. And I think we are now slowly and gradually getting used to the concept of it. My name is Rafya, and I'm the legal associate at Sadape. I am joined today by Alita, who is the senior HR business partner for TPL Corporation. Alita, why don't you introduce yourself to the audience?
First of all, thank you so much, Rafia, for having me over for this broadcast with Sadapi. And to begin with, basically, I'm an HR professional with about 8 to 9 years of experience in the industry. I have about experience in the banking, advertising, and IT, and now in telematics. Off the record, I'm a graduate from CBM, graduated in 2016 with majors in HR. Also, I'm a part-time career coach with an international organization. Uh, and that's about it. That's just a short intro about me.
Okay, wonderful. 8 to 9 years of experience is that's a lot, and I think we're going to learn a lot from you. Alita, why don't you give me your personal insight on this work from home scenario? Have you adjusted to it? How did you find it?
Okay, so Ravia, basically my experience as an HR professional and an employee with an organization would define work from home initially as something that I really didn't like. It was very uncomfortable. Like we all are, individuals or humans, and change happening in our lives is something very uncomfortable, and that's exactly what happened with me while I was taking that change into my life professionally as an individual. It was very difficult initially. I didn't really like it because there was a disconnect between employees and the team, and the personal life in itself was completely disturbed. But then, as you know, this thing started in Pakistan around end of Feb, and then we gradually kind of had to adapt to this style. Globally, this is something that we've been hearing and seeing, and a lot of professionals globally have been speaking about remote employment
Yes.
and all of those things. But in Pakistan, it was very new, and it was let's use that word known as an alien sort of a thing for
Exactly. It was very alien.
yes, yes. But I think over the passage of time, this has people, especially the young generation, has accepted this very very positively. And then, to no offense, overall the workforce has adapted to this very very positively, and I think it has become very productive. Employers are going towards inculcating this into their culture,
Yeah.
and having different methodologies and strategies on how to motivate and engage their workforce going forward. So it is a challenge, and being an HR professional, I think above all, along with the management, we are supposed to be very proactive and reactive to the approaches that we take within the
Yeah.
organization. So that's one of the challenges that we as HR professionals go through on a daily basis, because
Yeah.
having that human interaction with employees is something, because every day our needs and desires at workplace, they do change individually as well, they do change. So my experience definitely has gone from not liking it to definitely loving it. And if you ask,
Yeah.
it saves a lot of commute time and a lot of other external factors that we face in terms of traffic and pollution and all of those things. So those factors are kind of put aside when you say that work from home is something that is very effective.
Yeah,
So
so you say that the human touch is lacking, and there's no human interaction. So how did you find it? I'm pretty sure you found it hard managing your team that way, because as an HR professional, you have a lot of people to handle and kind of like bring them together in the mix. So how was that like?
So basically, okay. So to be very honest, we had to do an analysis of what people were looking for
Yeah,
in terms of what were the expectations from their managers, what were the expectations from the organization. So a lot of organizations did take a lot of care, for their employees, and they did ensure that employees didn't feel like they were left alone or aside, right?
yeah,
So a lot of companies that I know, I won't take names, but a lot of companies made sure that their employees had the workspace, by facilitating them with office furniture and things like that, so that they never felt that the organization was kind of forgot about them.
yeah,
So there were a lot of ways where companies would, conduct engagement activities, knowing that we cannot meet one another because of this entire situation. So a
yes,
lot a lot of meetings were done virtually, a lot of activities were done virtually, and managers were expected to, kind of check on their employees from time to time as to
yeah.
whether how things were with them professionally, individually, and that's what kept them connected from time to time. So that's what I've experienced, throughout this 8 to 9 months on its own.
And do you think when the lockdown period started, which is between March to August, that was the time that companies were forcing their employees to stay at home and work from home. So that part during that time, was it more difficult for people to adjust to the work from home routine? And now when we've been hit with the second wave of coronavirus, are people adapting to it more easily now?
So let's talk about two phases. The first phase
Yeah,
that it had initially come in, and the second phase that is going on now. So I
yeah.
think initially it was very difficult because people were like, ये क्या है और हमें क्यों करना है, or what is the possibility, how are we going to connect, how are we going to work, because a lot of
Yeah.
people have a lot of emotions attached to the desk that they work and the team that they.
Yeah, I do.
So, like, completely shifting from there, like I said earlier, change is something that we're all, very hesitant or reluctant to
Yeah, we're
actually.
averse to it. And I think as Pakistanis mostly, I think we don't like change. We just don't want to accept it.
Yes, I wouldn't define, or I wouldn't, categorize it to only Pakistanis, because I've seen and heard from a lot of professionals, even abroad, people kind of, some people prefer, like, meeting people more often, and, having those small coffee breaks and lunch breaks and,
Yeah.
those things. But I think as we move on to the second phase, it's not is as difficult as it was opposed to the first phase, because people have accepted the reality that this is no, this is there for a long time now, and this is what they
Yeah.
have. So this is basically the new normal, and people are kind of accepting. In fact, people don't want to come to office now. They prefer being at home and working, at their flexibility and the resources that they have. So yeah, it again depends, but I think majority of the workforce are comfortable working from home as opposed to coming to the office physically.
Yeah, and I believe that most part of the workforce, uh, हम लोगों को बहुत ज़्यादा आसानी ये भी लगती है ना कि we don't have to get up in the morning, get
Yes,
dressed,
yes.
you know,
So
iron our clothes at night. That
so
cost has kind of like diminished in that sense.
So true, so true. And especially people who stay far, I mean, I feel bad that, people have to commute, like, for 1 hour, 2 hours, 1.5 hours to get to the office. So, all of those things, all of those factors have kind of, been cut off from their daily routine, and they save it up in kind of spending more time with family and doing things that they generally love. So again, I will not take names, but in my previous employer, we were basically encouraged to by the management to basically get more involved into things we personally like doing. Like for example, if you are passionate about painting, so we were asked to actually spend more time doing that, because that's where creativity comes into being, and all
Yeah.
of that. So I think people have kind of started living more meaningful lives since work from home has come into being.
Yeah.
Uh, and my personal experience has also been really good, especially with the phase two that is coming in. I think it's not as difficult as it was earlier to adapt into this new routine.
And do you think it's also helped young parents? I mean, they have more time to spend with their children now since they're at home, and काम के साथ साथ they can also, like give more time to their children, especially young parents.
Yes, young parents, definitely this has been an added advantage. I have a young parent at my home. I have young parents at my home as well.
Yeah.
So the plus point is that, they get to spend more time with their kids and manage work also accordingly. So, I think in a way, this pandemic has been a blessing in disguise for many of us in a
Yeah, it
lot of
has.
and in a lot of ways. And I think we should consider that as, although we've seen a lot happening this year, I don't really know what's in store for all of us this year, but this time has been a blessing for many of us, working and spending time at home as well.
Yeah. So, okay, so if we go back to like how you manage your employees in a remote environment, so how do you guys, appraise your employees? What are the new techniques of doing that? Since when you work remotely, the lack of human interaction forces you to look at different aspect of one's work, right?
True,
So
true, true.
how do you manage that?
So basically, it all depends on the job and basically what is required of the job, right? So again, I think it has always been quality over quantity. So it's
Yeah.
it's it's not the amount of hours that you spend with an organization, or the amount of hours you spend during a day, but if a resource is able to give you quality work in about 2 hours, as opposed to someone who's working 9 hours a day but doesn't give you that quality, then I think that comes off as measuring performance in terms of quality. So I think again, it all depends on the job and what is required of the job. So a lot of managers are let's say forced to get into managing their employees in a more effective way,
Yeah.
efficient way. Although this was being done before, but this is more like this is more like getting to know your employees at a personal level, and then training and grooming them to become who they are supposed to be in the near future. Right. So goals and the goal setting exercise that's being done is basically
Yeah.
you have more emphasis on personal development and and training needs and all of those things. So those things are taken into consideration, and then it's aligned with what is expected of the job. So
Yeah.
I think having a performance appraisal system and all of those things, all the paperwork, yes, that is there, but I think getting to your resources at a personal level and professionally is something that's very, very, very important, and that's how employees are encouraged to grow within the capacity that they are in. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I remember in my one of my past experiences on off late, I remember people saying that it's so nice to be attending a meeting where you just have to sit at your comfort level and wherever you can, because that's not taken into consideration on how you sit or how you
Yeah.
do all of those things. But it's just that we're given that flexibility as to how we can attend a meeting and how we are supposed to deliver. So it has come down to that level. So yeah, I mean, there are certain etiquettes. I wouldn't say that there are, but then again,
Yeah.
there's a flexibility in everything and anything that you do while you're working from home.
Yes, and but when you talk about flexibility, तो बहुत सारे लोगों को my friends मतलब I've spoken to people, colleagues and friends and family. So बहुत लोगों की शिकायत जो होती है वो ये होती है कि working hours have increased
Okay,
since
yes.
yeah, yes, because there's technically no time for your meetings. An employer can call you and he can be like कि आज 8 बजे भी मैंने मीटिंग करनी है और मैंने सुबह 10 बजे भी करनी है. So there's no timing for anything now.
Yes, so like I said earlier, when there are pros and cons to working from home, this is one of the disadvantages of working from home, because
Yeah.
even from my personal experience, I've had people tell me that as well. And this is where flexibility also comes into being, that there's a very thin line or no line between for work life balance, right? And
Yeah.
so you kind of begin to think that it was better off when you were going to work, because there was an actual time of closing your shop, in other words, they say,
Yeah.
by 5:36, and then you have a personal life that people know. Okay, fine, now you're going home, you have dinner, and then you have time with family, and that's how it is. Again,
Exactly.
that comes to how your team manages, how your team manages the entire thing altogether. There has to be an understanding, and when we talk about flexibility, we don't say that you have to be there for 9 to 10 hours and you can't be doing anything else, right? So
Yeah.
there is, like I said, flexibility, but at the same time, you are required to actually, work at odd hours also. So that's a disadvantage, and that I feel I would agree. But at the same time, that comes in with, let's suppose if you're in the office, you
Yeah.
step out to do something, unless it's very genuine, you have a genuine reason. But when you're at
Yeah.
home, can skip out and just go get your stuff done, and then come back and then resume, right? So
Yeah.
it has its pros and cons, like I said. And it is there. People are, especially the younger generation, that is coming into the workforce, that is our Gen Z's, gens, and
Yeah.
for that matter. So these people, if you do a little analysis of what their needs and wants are, so basically they don't ask for much, but all they want is to be understood, and they want to have that,
Yeah.
be working with a work organization that understands them, completely. So that has been my experience.
Yeah, and so if we take into consideration Gen Z and the younger lot coming into the workforce, and then we compare them with people who have been in the industry for 15 years, 20 years. So I think both of them are poles apart because in my opinion, the ones who have had 10 to 15 years of experience have had a harder time adjusting to this work from home scenario because they've spent all their life at the desk and it's hard for them. They're not even social media crazy, so they don't know how to work their way around the whole internet situation. So have you had a hard time, has your company or the companies you've worked with earlier on, have they had a hard time adjusting with both the lots?
Yes, and no. Yes, because there have been organizations that have been preparing their older workforce,
Yeah.
for older generations to adapt to this. and many of
Yeah.
them have adapted to this kind of working style. But the challenges that we basically have faced is basically creating an understanding between both, creating both groups, right?
Yeah.
But then preparing the younger generation to get into that, get into that mindset, and having them, I mean, as opposed to, if you do an analysis of the workforce that's coming in, so basically
Yeah.
it's the younger people that are coming in, and it entirely depends on the industry that you're working with. So if you take, let's say, an IT firm or an advertising firm, you have mainly young people working in
Yeah.
such organizations, right? As
Yeah.
opposed to, yeah. So when you have these type of people coming in, so what they do is they basically are given the freedom and flexibility to come up with their ideas, their strategies, the innovation. They're given that space where they can actually explore new things. So yes,
Yeah.
there has been a gap, but we try to create a culture where both generations are kind of forced to get into that environment where they are asked to kind of adapt, because that's where you kind
Yeah.
of see how flexible an individual is in
Yeah.
learning, and then you are basically analyzing the learning capability of an individual as well, right? So
Yeah.
if you see 10 years back then, digital and technology was not so fast paced as it is now.
Yeah.
So
True.
if you see the young people, they, in one hand they have a phone,
Yeah.
on the other hand they have something else, and then they have their laptop right in front, and so they're basically on so many platforms because their style of working is different. So
Yes.
their calculator, their mode of communication, their camera, and all the way they would communicate is all on this single device. Right?
Yes.
Uh, you see the older generation, it's not that way. So it's very different, and for this it's a big challenge for line managers, for managers managing huge teams that have a mix of both. It's a
Yeah.
challenge, to create challenge, right? So because you have to take the team along.
Huh. So so like for an HR, for an HR professional, if this pandemic had hit us some 10 years back, so you would have in kind of like added a training on how to do everything online, right, for that generation. But now, since it has hit us in 2020, do you think it is compulsory to have a training for your employees to conduct themselves on Zoom or any other platform that they use for their day-to-day workings?
um, See, where training is concerned, I agree that it needs to be done. But nowadays, I'll be very honest, and this is from my personal experience as well.
Yeah.
A lot of people are doing self learning, right? So,
Yeah.
not many of us are dependent on external factors that we go
Yeah.
and we kind of do trainings and all of that. So you basically, because you kind of feel out of place when you don't know something, you feel like 10 other people are doing the same thing, and I'm
Yeah.
you kind of do that self learning. But yes, organizations have done that, organizations are doing that. Initially we didn't know how to use Zoom and all of these things. I mean, Skype, Zoom, and Microsoft Meetings, you
Yeah.
name apps. Now there are multiple apps that are just being used for this purpose. So yes, it's very important. It's very important for HR professionals, and I think besides HR professionals, teams are supposed to also take responsibility in imparting that knowledge to their subordinates, so that they are, because every job requires skills that are very demanding from time to time, right? So it's very
Yeah.
important the people, employees, managers, and the organization in itself think a step ahead, so that because this is all part of crisis management. Now, had we known
Yeah.
that pandemic was coming, we would have eventually worn our seatbelts and said, okay, now this is what we are prepared for. Let's hit the road. But
Yeah.
little did we know that this was coming, so we had to be prepared. Organizations, some organizations have been forced to think differently, right?
Yeah.
Because some of them didn't think differently, they are where they are now, right? So
Yeah.
you kind of this has encouraged a lot of companies to basically think creatively, innovatively, efficiently, and see what they could do to help the society in general. So I think,
Yeah.
like I said earlier, this pandemic has been a blessing in disguise for many of us, professionally, individually, and going forward, I think it will as well.
And I believe this is where empathy comes into play, right? Because we're all still adjusting to the pandemic, and we everyone somewhere somehow or the other has faced some kind of loss in the pandemic. And to bring your workforce together and still have that kind of empathy towards them, to allow them to adjust to the process and not demand too much of them.
Yes, exactly. So, empathy is a factor that I think a lot of us take it as, uh, a least important, attribute that
Yeah.
professionals should have. But I think it's one of the most important factors that we fail to, make our organizations or individuals.
Acknowledge.
Yeah, we fail to do that. Um, so a lot of people are going through a rough patch. A lot of people are having a hard time. A lot of jobs have become redundant. Uh,
Yeah.
Organizations are forced to change their way of working. But all
Yeah.
in all, organizations, like I mentioned earlier, have been considerate enough to retain and take care of their resources, employees, like their own families as well. So yes, there have been the empathy factor is there in a lot of
Yeah.
organizations, and a lot of us are, I think, evolving to bring that factor as the most important one as well.
Yeah. Okay, so my next question is basically I wanted to ask you this, that I believe costs have greatly decreased from people now working from home. But what about efficiency? Has that also decreased, or it has stayed the same, or do you think it has improved?
So yes, definitely cost has decreased, and for many it has decreased, immensely. But if efficiency has increased as well. Like I said, a lot of efficiency in terms of work productivity, in terms of uh,
Yeah.
resource utilization, in terms of managing a team. Yes, a lot of time has been saved. Because like if you
Yeah.
my previous company that I was working with, we had client facing people run in for meetings and commuting for meetings outside the office like every now and then, and we would see their faces like at like 7 in the evening, 8 in the evening, because some would be going to, I don't know, Kurangi, or some would be going to the site area, or it just
Yeah.
so, in terms of efficiency, I think yes, personally, this has improved in terms of quality of work, like I said, and
Yeah.
a lot of external factors are out in this work from home policy that has come into place with a lot of organizations. So I think if organizations continue with the work from home, policy in place, there
Yeah.
are different methodologies on how to basically have teams work more efficiently and effectively. But it definitely is, has improved work quality a lot, a lot.
Okay. Okay. So, what do you think? Because now we know how to work from home technically. So if even if we're way past the pandemic and we're it's going to end one, inshallah it will end. So when it ends now, employers, do you think they will be uh, more likely to give people the advantage of working from home if they can't attend a day at the office?
I think that has already started taking place in a lot of organizations. Like my current employer has that in place, and we don't really there's no let's say rigid policy that we have to come in the office and be physically present. It's something that we have in place, that if your work is being done and can be managed very effectively and efficiently from home, then there's
Yeah.
no need for you to come. But a lot of organizations are taking remote employment into consideration for a lot of reasons, and
Yeah.
a lot of people are looking into acquiring jobs, like not just having one job, right? So like people
Yeah.
have doing two to three things at a time. One could be their,
Yeah.
so for example, if I'm a human resource professional, and if I
Yeah.
am doing a job at the same time, if I'm passionate about, let's say, playing the guitar, so I play somewhere, at maybe
Yeah.
something just for 1 or 2 hours, or if I'm probably like giving tuitions, or giving
Yeah.
of that sort, so then you go and do that. So a lot of people are looking at those options as well. So like I said earlier, a lot of people are looking into living more meaningful lives, and thinking of exploring a lot of things that they're more passionate about. So yeah.
Yeah, I think, and people were initially, when most people were starting freelancing, it was that the sense of staying at home and getting to do what you want. So even if now people are looking towards doing other jobs other than freelancing, they have the kind of advantage of staying at home and still doing what they like.
Yeah, like I'll give you an example. I know an acquaintance of mine who's basically
Yeah.
been freelancing for a lot of years, for many years.
Yeah.
Like has it has and this person has basically worked in the corporate industry as well, the corporate world.
Yeah.
But while talking to this person, it was specifically said that there's no fun in just sitting alone in front of a screen, and there's no interaction. Like you kind of miss the human touch, like I said earlier.
Yeah.
Human
Yeah.
touch is something that a lot of people look forward to, right? So
Yeah.
there's a different charm in that altogether.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So,
yeah, that's
okay. So one last thing that I want to ask you was, so you said you worked in the banking industry also.
yes, I have.
So in your opinion, what is it like for the banking industry to be, kind of doing their work from home? Because obviously the main, the ground staff cannot work from home, but the rest of the staff, what is it like for them?
Again, okay, so now when I worked into the banking industry, it was like back in 2008 when I was
Yeah.
associated with the bank. But yes,
Yeah.
it's not only the banking industry. There is, I mean, there are people, in other industries also where they're
Yeah,
required.
like doctors and even I think lawyers also. I think it's very hard for us to work from home also.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So like I said, even if you see how architects work as well, they're
Yeah.
they need physical space to actually do their work, because
Yeah.
everything revolves around, that space that they work in. So it's very
Yeah.
difficult for such people. But then again, organizations have developed strategies on how they are supposed to work as well. So now, like, if you are aware, organizations are coming into working from home, with 50% of the staff coming into organizations, with respect to the announcement that has come from the government, because you cannot shut down completely, right? You cannot
You
like shut
can't.
down.
True.
So you have like the daily wages people coming in, and then you have these people on ground, people who work as technicians, and support staff. They're all required to be on ground, right?
Yeah.
We've had people these people, you make them sit at home, and then they be like, हम गुजारा कैसे करेंगे, यानी कि how we're
Yeah.
not paid. So how are organizations helping such people as well? But there are companies that have facilitated such employees as well, which is
Yeah.
very good that companies have taken care of their employees during this
Yeah.
pandemic, which is really nice.
Yeah. Okay, so Alita, I think we are now going to take questions from our audience.
Yeah, sure, sure.
Okay, so Mahnur Sajid, what online tools do you recommend for companies transitioning to remote work?
So basically, if you talk about tools to communicate, a lot of companies have been using Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and tools like Skype. And companies have purchased business accounts for individuals and employees to use this on a professional level as well, because this has become something that is mandatory, and organizations are using these tools to communicate, cross functionally, and even within departments as well.
Yes.
So yeah.
Okay, we'll take another question. Okay, Sana Ahmed asks, what are some ways through which a company can ensure employees' mental wellness when working remotely?
Okay, so
Good
mental.
question.
It's a very good question, and thank you, Sana, for raising this question, because this has been one of my main concerns as well. Because when you are not connected with your employees, you don't really know. This pandemic has been difficult for a lot of people, in their personal space as well, because being in initially, when we were in the month of March, April, February, March, April, that there was a time where none of us stepped out, right? And then, even to go and get groceries for the house was something that was very challenging, right? You couldn't meet with people and things like that. So a lot of companies have basically conducted online activities where managers have these lunches, virtual lunches, or
Yeah.
team building sessions where they kind of engage with employees, have these fun
Yeah. Team
activities where
building exercises, yes.
yeah, where you kind of speak to employees and get to know
Yeah.
what they're basically looking for. You have a lot of organizations have introduced online fitness programs as well.
Mm.
Engage with gyms where they have trainers to give online sessions, and
Yeah.
things like that. So organizations have their tools, yes, and they have mental wellness has been a very critical factor for many organizations, because we don't really know what employees are going through.
Yeah.
And like I said, organizations have found ways where they are taking care of their employees by doing such things.
Yeah.
Um, some of them being these lunches or dinners, virtual lunches, and virtual team building activities or engaging activities before starting a meeting, or something that keeps the team engaged from time to time.
Yeah. That was a really good question. And I will now wrap this up. Thank you so much, Alita. It was great talking to you, and we just got some really great insights onto the whole work from home scenario.
Thank you so
Um,
much, Rafya.
yeah, thank you for joining us. Hope to have you. I hope to speak to you soon.
Thank you so much, Rafia. It was a pleasure being part of Sadapi, and I hope you have a nice day as well. Thank you.
Thanks. Good luck. Good luck, Alita.
Same to you. Take care. Bye bye.